So, wearing the old Warrior shirt. Funny story about this shirt, or funny story about this logo. When I first started out doing this, I was really trying to search for a logo. I was really trying to search for something that would give Warrior Soul some meaning. And this symbol here, it's the Wu symbol. And there's two ways I came across it. The first time I came across it, it was actually on a Wu-Tang album cover. Jesus, my hair. I need a haircut, guys. It was on a Wu-Tang album cover. I'm a huge Wu-Tang Clan fan. And it means martial, which is roughly translated to put weapons down or to cease the use of weapons. And I thought, wow, that would be a really cool philosophical way of getting the Warrior Soul message out there, because veterans, we're people who put weapons down, right? But that's not how I came across it. The other way I came across it is because I actually have it tattooed on my stomach. And I was actually searching for a logo that would be cool. And I looked down while I was doing it and I was like, let me look at that. So that was the original Warrior Soul logo. I guess the reason why I'm telling you this is because in life, the logo now is much simpler. It's something everybody can recognize as being emanated from Marine Corps veterans, right? I mean, we work with all veterans, but everybody who works at this company, from me to the production people, to the marketing people, we're all Marine Corps veterans. And we love all veterans, but we wanted to put something on there that represented all of us, and that was the K-Bar. But it goes to show you when you try to overcomplicate things, because what was happening at the beginning, people just weren't getting it. They're like, why is that Chinese character up there? And you have to go through this whole story to explain it. But you have to be willing to change. And that's the subject of today's video. It's not about my logo. The subject of today's video is about change and adapting to change and understanding change and allowing yourself to live through change. On the podcast last week, I was talking about death and discussion of death and how our perspective on death really shapes the way we live. And I talked about how we live with this kind of lifelong tragedy. As human beings, having consciousness, we kind of live under a lifelong tragedy. A lifelong tragedy in the knowledge from the time we're very young, when we come to understand what death is, that we ourselves and everybody around us, all our loved ones, are going to die. So we live with this kind of lifelong tragedy in our minds. The fact that we know that we're going to die, our parents are going to die, our loved ones are going to die, our spouses are going to die, even our children, hopefully long after we all die, are going to die. And so we live with this notion, and we know it's a constant possibility for death to come to us early. But because of that, we either fear death or we become obsessed with death, right? And we think about it all the time. We think about how much we're trying to avoid it, or we become obsessed with the possibility. Or we mock death and we live our lives without any respect for it. And so we pollute our bodies, we do nothing of any real purpose with our life, and we, basically exist. In either case, whether we fear death, or become obsessed with death, or we mock death, the whole purpose of living, the whole reason for living according to our own direction, living according to what we really want, really doesn't exist. Because if we fear death, we're constantly worried about death and we're not taking any chances. If we're obsessed with death, we're in a depressed state and we're really keeping ourselves from doing anything with our lives because we can't get out of this kind of doom and gloom scenario. And then if we mock death, we kind of obsess ourselves with little frivolities, like little things that don't really matter. And so we focus on, just drinking or watching TV, or, not really taking care of ourselves enough so that we can get the most out of life. But if we understand what death really is, which is kind of a messenger, I don't want to say really is, because I don't want to impose my truth on you, but my perspective on death, and the way you see a lot of different people who've done a lot in this life, their perspectives on death is that the reason it's there is so that we know that this is all temporary. The fact that us being here, we're not going to be here forever. So we have a real limited time to do what we want to do. But not only do we have a real limited time to do what we want to do, we don't have any reason to not do what we really want to do. We have no reason not to follow our dreams, because we're going to die someday anyways. So why wouldn't you spend this time on earth following your dreams, doing what you want to do? And when we get into concepts like change, there's a similar way of looking at change, because every change we experience in life is kind of like a mini death, right? It's the death of one phase of our lives into another. And so we can fear that change. We can become obsessed with it and kind of think about it in terms of us not really focusing on the present, but only focusing on when that change is going to happen. We can mock that change, and we can say, you know what? I'm not going to change. I'm just going to stay here, and I'm going to party, and I'm going to have a good time. Or we can look at that change as a messenger and a calling and a new challenge for us to grow. I've been in every one of these different perspectives on change. When I was a kid, I used to fear change. I didn't want to leave my mom's side because I loved her so much, and I didn't want to go anywhere without her. I still love that woman. I have to call her every week. And that feeling of kind of almost sick to my stomach when I got to Parris Island wasn't because anybody was yelling at me. It's because I wasn't going to be able to see my family for a long time after that. And so, and the same thing on deployment. That's what really got to me. It wasn't the stress of the deployment. It was the fact that I wasn't going to be able to see anybody I really knew or loved for a long time. So that was the fear of the change. And that kind of kept me from seeing the present. Then there's the mock of change. Not mocking change. Being obsessed with change. When I was in high school, I really couldn't wait to get out of Connecticut for a long time. And it kind of contradicts what I said earlier, but one of the reasons why I joined the Marine Corps in the first place was because I wanted to get the heck away for a little bit. I had this part of me that really loved home, but I had this part of me that really didn't like being in a small town and knew nothing was ever going to happen for me if I stayed there. So there was this other part of me that said, you know what, I'm just going to put all my effort into thinking about when all this stuff is going to change. And so I really don't feel like I enjoyed high school, or even later on when I got to college. I was always obsessed with graduating. I didn't really enjoy the process of learning or doing what I really should have been doing in high school, and being present and learning the lessons I should have learned back then. So I missed out on a lot of that. And then mocking change, I've done a whole lot of that. When I got out, I mean, I pretty much just wanted to sit on a bar stool and be comfortable all the time in the haze of alcoholism. And I just only thought about drinking, only thought about not living reality. I was mocking change. I didn't want anything to change, and I got depressed when things did. So I went to the alcohol and kept myself from growing up. But right now I'm in this process here where I'm on this transition of being an entrepreneur and kind of putting aside a lot of the other things that I used to love about security, comfort, and really enjoying this hard journey, this challenge of every day. And what I'm trying to get you guys to understand is that a lot of you are in this process of change right now. A lot of the veterans who follow this, they've just gotten out of the military and they're in the process of changing into something new. And it's easy to sit there and be depressed about the change because all you really have to do is be sad all the time. It's easy to sit there and mock change and to occupy a bar stool with your presence. The hard thing is to accept the challenge and to say, you know what, this is a new change in my life. I have to grow in order to accept this challenge. And so I'm gonna do whatever it takes in order to be the new me, to be the best version of the new me. The military me was awesome, right? And I'm so proud of that. But now I have to accept this challenge of being a new version of myself, keeping those values I learned to the forefront, but accepting the challenge of becoming something new. And this is no different from when you went to boot camp. It's no different from when you went through your job training. It's no different from going on a deployment. The only difference is that for the most part, you're on your own on this one. And the thing you have to realize is you're not entirely on your own. You're just kind of out there with lines of communication to people like me, lines of communication to your brothers who you still keep in contact with, and lines of communication with really freaking knowledgeable people through books. Read, learn as much as you can during this time period. Allow yourself to grow. You have to make a choice too. If you don't make that choice, then you're gonna be stuck in one of those first two stages, and you're either gonna fear and become depressed about change, or you're gonna mock it and you're not gonna change at all, and things are just gonna get worse. So just some advice and some metaphors. I hope that all made sense, and I love you all. Talk to you soon. Peace.